Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Mavs Moneyball After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson, and today I am joined by what is now a longtime contributor, and Matthew Phillips. How you doing, Matt?
I'm very good. A little tired from playing basketball, but very good. Ready for the season to start.
Ready for the season to just start by playing basketball, and that's what we're doing. So we're recording here on Tuesday the 4th, about 23 hours before the tip-off of the preseason, where the Dallas Mavericks will face off against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we already know a couple of things before the game starts. The first is that Davis Bertans and JaVale McGee will not be playing. Just Davis Bertans is having knee issues, which I kind of think may be a recurring theme of his season and maybe really the rest of his career, because knee issues don't really go away. And then JaVale McGee apparently has a sprained ankle. Both are veterans, neither necessarily, like, they each have pretty straightforward rules. So it's, you know, it's not necessarily a loss for anything other than us wanting to know what's happening with the basketball. So what, we've not talked in a real long time. You actually did the brilliant thing and took some time away from the basketball writing stuff. You didn't really have a choice. You had to work a ton. But it's been a long time since we talked. So what are your sort of thoughts and feelings as we head into the preseason with where the Mavericks are?
I would go with guarded optimism, like cautious optimism. I think it's a little dangerous to take anything too serious from anything before the actual season starts.
For sure.
Especially from we've seen practices, and I mean, like, we've seen things before. We've seen Hoodie Mello. We've seen Ben Simmons every year coming in as this is going to be the season he hits threes, because he hits threes and open gym runs. Which the problem with that is that NBA players. I remember watching Samuel Dallenberg make like 9 of 11 corner threes, and that was never part of his game. Just like standing around, like, it is stunning. If you've never met an actual NBA player, it is stunning how good they are when they are not playing an NBA game.
It's so wild. Do you remember the preseason when Josh Richardson hit like all of his 3-pointers for the Mavericks?
73%. 72.7%. Yes, and I was very high on the Josh Richardson is about to get a near max contract and everything is going to be great, and I was not correct. How we will phrase that. Like I said, the deal with that is but what I am happy with, because this obviously segues into Josh Green, who has obviously looked very good in the limited film that we have gotten, which, like I said, I do want to be cautious in the optimism, but the point of fandom is to enjoy playing. And
sure.
We get to watch Luka Doncic play basketball, and obviously we get to watch the rest of the Mavs. And so with Green, I think the biggest thing for him, and I actually think preseason helps him, is he just needs reps.
Yeah.
Like the more reps that guy gets, the better. Because we joke about it that he didn't play summer league for the last 2 years, when I personally feel like he should have. He didn't really play for Australia. Like, that's why he didn't play summer league last year. But he didn't really play for Australia in the in the Olympics, and then he's not like he hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. He played basically double the amount of minutes last year that he did the year before. I think he played 445 as a rookie, and then a little over 1,000 last year. If they can bump him up to 1,500-1,600 minutes this year, it's really, that's about 20 a game for every game. Like, that's really good for him. Just the more he plays, the better he will be, because he does have skills. He's athletic. He can hopefully shoot, and that's the other thing for him, is not just that he plays, but that he gets up shots. Because I see a lot of people that are concerned about his percentage and very happy that he made, like, he shot over 40% after the All-Star game last year, I believe, but he just doesn't take enough. If you make 1 3 every other game, honestly, if you shoot 100%, if you don't miss any threes, but you only take one every other game, defenses aren't going to guard you. And so the more threes he gets up and the more he plays, it can't be anything but good for him and for the Mavs.
Yeah, that's actually the first thing that Josh Bowe wrote about in his what to watch for during the Mavericks 2022 preseason. It's all very green focused, and I am, the internet discourse happens a lot faster than like casual fans. That's probably for the best, because it's like he goes from looking really nice in an NBA TV practice to looking pretty good in the fan jam, which is basically like, it's the equivalent of like Midnight Madness kicking off like basketball season at a college. Like, it's for fun. And I'm glad he looks confident. I'm glad he looks like rearing to go. I'm cautiously optimistic that he's going to be functional. But then I wrote, this preview yesterday that went up, and someone in the comments basically mapped out the minutes and said, like, I don't see where he's getting minutes. Which, it's a long season. If he's the ninth man and he plays 65 games for the Mavericks, I think that's a win. Like, I'm looking forward to see, I know we're just kind of talking preseason at the moment, but it's not, you want to sort of cast ahead, and you want Josh Green to perform well in the circumstances that are made for Josh Green to perform well. And preseason, where he should get extended minutes compared to most of the starters, is going to be that place.
I kind of see it. So I've heard you say this about summer league, but I kind of feel like this applies to regular NBA preseason basketball too, where just because you look good doesn't mean that you've made it, but looking bad is a really bad sign.
Yes.
Like, if you can't play in those situations, it's a bad sign. And so that's really what I want from him. I just want him to look good, and I want him to look confident. Honestly, I don't want to say I don't care how many he makes, but just what I really don't want to see is him to come out, get up 2 quick threes, miss both of them, and then just shut down from shooting. And, everything is, because that's the thing, is that's really going to be the first test, is not how willing are you to shoot when you shoot well. It's, and I mean, he doesn't have to turn into Tim Hardaway Jr. or Kobe or anything where it's just, hey, I'm always going to make the next one. But it does need to be, if he's open and the flow of the offense dictates that he takes it, even if he's, 0-2, 0-3, 1 of 5, something like that. Like, he needs to be willing to get him up. And on the minutes thing, those things have a way of working themselves out, because we think of like the whole season the same way we think of the playoffs. And there's a lot of times that you get minutes during the regular season where, between people missing games and things like that always, in the beginning of the season, you're like, man, this guy's not going to be able to get minutes. And then you look into your 30, 40 games in the season, and you're like, man, I really wish we had another body or two to get some more minutes.
100%. Where it's like, this is a ridiculous comp, but I'm thinking about fantasy football all the time, where like you start the season, and if you start off well and you have a good year, your team's doing well and you're excited, and then you get to like week 5 and one injury all of a sudden puts your team on like a crash course. And like, that's where the Mavericks have ran into issues for 2 years now, where they just don't have the bodies. And the Mavericks are we're thank God we no longer have to hear that they're a young team, because it's now on math that they're basically like the 6th or 8th oldest team in the league. So Josh Green just doing anything is going to be a value. And I'm looking forward to seeing him try in preseason. Like, we're going to wildly overreact. I mean, people are like already like talking shit to me, which is just, it's like weird. Like, I want Josh Green to succeed, because if Josh Green plays well, then the Mavericks are playing well. And then we're talking about the Mavericks as an actual postseason contender this year again, which is nice. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, I think people get a little bit of a misnomer when you say like negative things about Josh Green. It's not that saying that you think someone is not great doesn't mean you don't want them to be great. They're not the same thing.
Correct. Right. Right. It's a, I've made the comparison, and maybe this isn't fair anymore, but I'm of the opinion that if the NBA has 450 players, give or take, whether you consider two-way guys or whatnot, of those 450, 375 to 400 of them are the literal best players on the planet. Maybe 350. Josh
Absolutely.
Green kind of fits in that back 100 to 75 players where he may or may not be an NBA player. That's not an insult. He's still among the best players on the planet. It's a matter of he has to find a way to contribute to this team right now, because the Mavericks, I think, will need him sooner than is, we're probably comfortable with. And if he figures out a little bit of anything, then all of a sudden, I think all of us are a lot more bullish. We're always bullish because of Luka Doncic, but it's these little margins where the Mavericks, in years past, they have a bunch of guys that they can count on. Now they need some of these these picks and gambles to play out. So the next thing that Josh wrote about, and Josh Bowe wrote about, that I think is interesting, is what does Jaden Hardy look like with NBA level spacing? Jaden Hardy played one good summer league game and then mainly looked like a guy surrounded by players. Like, he was not very good, and then the rest of the Mavericks summer league team was not very good, and it was not great. Hardy struggled in the G League, but played well towards the end. I really like his frame. I really like his form. And, something about you said about Josh Green earlier matters. I really like his confidence. Confidence is so important as a professional athlete. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, even, he probably will play in preseason, and then he'll probably spend a lot of his season in the G League. There's just not the minutes for him. But I still want to see him play,
Oh, yeah. That's where I was going to go with this. I was going to say, I'm normally the wildly optimistic one, especially about young players and everything. And I was going to say, I really think Jaden Hardy is going to help the Mavs in 2024.
Sure.
It's going to be fun to see him in the preseason. It'll be fun. I'm sure he'll get a few games during the regular season when something happens and, Tim Hardaway tweaks an ankle and Spencer Dinwiddie's a little sore, or they're resting him for his knee, or, just something will happen. There's always time where you need minutes, and Hardy will help. And I could absolutely see on a game to game basis, for a 2 to 3 game basis, he might get 30 minutes a game at random times and he might look good. I just think for this year, for him, it's a learning experience. And this is where the Mavs, which I should not say because I'm absolutely not part of the Mavs, but the Mavs absolutely do not have a system like the Rockets had a few years ago, where they were from the ground up. They had their G League team trying to take the most, they're trying to run the exact same system. And the Mavs don't quite have that, and I wish they did. But it will be good to see him in some structure with NBA coaching.
Sure.
Shammgod should help him quite a bit. And
his handle needs a lot of help.
Yeah, and he looked real bad in the summer league. He had the one goodish game, but he just looked like a very, very high usage player that put up numbers because of the high usage.
Yep.
But I am it feels weird for me to do this, but if Jaden Hardy plays an important role for the Mavericks, I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, that'll be a positive. If Jaden Hardy matters to the Mavericks this season on more than a 3 to 5 game basis, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong. Or
he's shown something. It's just he would have to take quite a leap. That's going to be hard.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I can absolutely just be blatantly wrong about something. It's just I don't think he's there this season, but I think that's okay. What I am happy with is they're trying to develop someone, and it's okay to look 2 years down the road with a second round pick. So it's completely fine if he ends up being good in 2 years. That's a huge win for the Mavericks, and it'll be good for him to start down that road now.
Yeah, I'm and that's basically kind of puts a bow on the main things I'm interested in. We're probably not going to see any sort of interesting lineup data. Luka, go ahead.
The biggest thing that I am curious to see, and I mean, we've seen a little bit of it because we don't have Puffy Luka. I mean, he's not Desmond Bain, which, I mean, Desmond Bain looks like he might be auditioning to play Bain in a movie. He's so freaking big. Good Lord. But it's, Luka doesn't look, but Luka looks he looks mid-season, has played his way mostly in the year. I think he'll lose a little more weight during the season just because of what
they always do. It's hard to maintain weight when you're burning that many calories every 2 days.
I mean, he looks like I don't know if you agree, like, but I have not seen him. He doesn't look like puffy Luka to me. Like he
No.
doesn't look like he's been out, just enjoying life. I mean, he's always going to be a bigger guy, and that helps him honestly. Like his strength, I personally think he's at worst the third best post player in the NBA. Like if you're going to run an offense through the post, it's Jokic, Embiid, and Luka. I mean, maybe Domantas Sabonis, but like he's one of the elite post players in the NBA, and I think his weight helps with that, like just being solid. But
Sure.
it's physical stuff. Like it's seeing people and seeing if they look good physically. Like I don't really care if Christian Wood makes shot in the preseason, but I do care that he looks good. And then the last thing with that is the vibes, because they were so big on vibes last year and everything, and they've done some stuff this offseason that has the potential to not go well vibes wise, because Wood coming off the bench in a contract year and stuff like that, and struggling to reintegrate Tim Hardaway. So I'm happy to see, and I'm hoping to see that everything that they still love playing with each other and all of that.
The reintegration of Tim Hardaway is an interesting, under-discussed thing. He was really bad last year. It kind of gets pushed under the rug, and everybody's talking about, even Nico Harrison has said it's like, a free agent signing, which, let's be clear, it's not like a free agent signing. A free agent signing would be an actual free agent signing. But Tim was given, I think one of the things that really benefited Tim Hardaway under Carlisle was rigid structure. You are to do these things. You are to catch, shoot, you are to drive, or you are to move the ball. There's not a lot of playmaking or over dribbling, things of that nature. You are to do the things which you excel at. And Tim rarely found a rhythm. I think he hit the most threes all year in a game in like one of the first 5 games of the season. He had a really interesting game against Memphis where he forced his way to the line for like 14 free throws at one point. But otherwise, the rest of his season was a disaster. I mean, when he hurt himself, it coincided with the rise of Reggie Bullock. We don't talk about that enough. I think those things are related because both of those guys require 6+ shots from distance a game in order to maintain some sense of rhythm from game to game. I hope those shots are there. The Mavericks need to find a way for both of those guys to get their shots because they're both very good offensive players. So that's an interesting sort of preseason wrinkle because I mean Tim Hardaway hasn't played NBA basketball in going on 9 months. So that's one thing. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that and how he fits back into the defense. Like the biggest thing with him is that what catapulted the Mavs when they went off, like when they went on their ridiculous run where they won a bunch of games and then they went in the playoffs and did all that, is Luka was the only person that was in the wrong spot on defense. Like Davis Bertans in his 5 minutes was a terrible defender. Like he's just physically a terrible defender. Although NBA.com has him as a semi-elite isolation defender with the Mavericks last year, which is
That's
pretty
amazing.
hilarious. It's only on it's their possession metrics are wrong. I think it's on like 20 possessions, but it's hilarious. And then Jalen Brunson's undersized and everything, but all of them were in, like everyone else rotated to the right spot. Yeah. The only person that had the freedom to not rotate to the right spot was Luka. And I don't necessarily mean that as a knock on Luka. I have long been a defender.
No, they let him play some what do you want to call it? Some kind
free
of free safety and basically freelance a bit.
Yeah, they let him do that. And I mean, and that's the privilege you get for running so much of the offense and being so much of all of that.
He's also just like instinctually pretty good about where things are going.
Yeah, he understands basketball geometry really well. And then, but Tim, it's weird with Tim's defense because he's not terrible in the sense of like when he's on ball. I mean, he gets beat, but everybody in the NBA gets beat. Like he's biggish for a guard. He's super athletic. The problem is he rotates so poorly off the ball. Like he just doesn't really he just doesn't really understand where to go and concepts and everything. And
like so there's a gif of him literally spinning around from Rick Carlisle's last year. Like he's just not great at defense. Now he's got the athleticism to do it. And so if the Mavericks are able to sort of drill principles and defend, like one of the reasons the Mavericks defense works so well is like everybody committed to the scheme and selling out in appropriate ways. It's eventually what got them beat by the Warriors, but that you worry about that once you get there. But I think they could show Hardaway. I don't know why. This is a big year for Tim.
Yeah, and it is. And then also you talked about the rigid structure that he missed. I do think Kidd's coaching hurt him the most. And I don't mean that as a shot at Kidd. Kidd was an
No.
extremely successful coach last year. It's just that Tim can do a lot of different things. The problem is he does not do all of those things super well at an NBA level. Like if he's out there in a pickup game with somebody, he is by far the best ball handler. He is by far the best shooter. He is by far everything. He's the best everything. But at an NBA level, you really don't want him, isolating, crossing over, running pick and rolls, doing all that stuff with, against elite NBA wing defenders.
Right.
That's just not a thing that you want going on for maybe more than 3 or 4 possessions. Now, I do think that he's going to have to pick up some creation just because the Mavs are so short on it, which that's another thing. Then that's probably the last thing for me that I'm interested to see is where do they try to get some shot creation from in the lesser minutes? I do think Jaden Hardy will get some, obviously, in the preseason, but I'm curious to see because they keep talking about Frank and Josh Green, and I think Green can do some interesting things. Ben, and I don't want to circle back too much, but Ben in the Slack made a very good point about it with Green that I think he interjects some chaos with the quote, the best swordsman in the world doesn't fear the second best swordsman in the world, but he fears the random guy just swinging away. And I think that's where Green can really help with the is he can just interject some chaos because the Mavs are very formulaic at times with Luka. Is we're gonna walk the ball up, we're gonna start the offense at 16 seconds, we're gonna run a high screen and roll, then Luka's gonna dribble for 10 seconds, and then we're gonna find from there, and then we're gonna shoot with 2 seconds left. That's an extremely effective offense. Luka is at worst the 3rd or 4th best offensive engine in the NBA. At the absolute worst, I personally think he's the best. But for 82 games, that can get a little old, not just for the fans. Like for me, it's not. I could watch Luka run offense for literally the rest of my life and be completely happy with it. But for players, that can get a little old if you do it all the time. Like if you remember, I don't like the Harden comparisons for Luka. I understand them to an extent, but I don't like them.
They're not. Yeah, they're.
But there is something to the effect of, role players, getting a playoff run, just let your star cook. And then the role players, just stand in the corner and shoot and defend. But, over year, that can be real wearing. And so I am interested to see where I'm interested to see if they run more, because that was something from the fan jam is Green had a couple of dunks in transition and stuff like that. If he's playing, I'm hoping they let him run.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, there's, we're going to overanalyze all this stuff. I can't wait. Really looking forward to it. That's probably it for the preseason stuff until we actually see basketball. There's a couple more things that I think were at least interesting around. We've been pumping out stuff at Mavs Moneyball, basically 4 to 5 posts a day going on like a week and a half now. And there's pretty good reason to expect that that's just going to continue with the staff. We got a lot of people pitching stuff. The NBA GM survey came out today, and there was. Did you happen to catch this, Matt? Have you seen this one yet?
I've seen a little bit of it. I know they said
you need to go through the results. The results are a riot because number one, I didn't realize this survey was that long. I do not remember it. Okay, and it's just all sorts of stuff in it. I mean, it took me like 10 to 12 minutes to sort of scan through and mark everything down that was interesting to me. And I did a quick aggregation post for it, and you can check it out. I'll link it in the show notes if you're interested. There's this weird sort of disconnect, I think, between what NBA GMs think and what they think of the Mavericks versus what they think of Luka, where the Mavericks aren't really picked. Like, I think GMs more or less think the Mavericks are going to make the playoffs, but they're basically going to be in the back half of the conference. But then Luka was kind of overwhelmingly picked as the MVP. And I'm just of the opinion, like 48% of responders, which is essentially 14, I don't know how many people, because it's called the GM survey, but there's more. There's obviously, I think they have multiple like front office personnel vote for each team, and so it's like because some of the numbers don't like map out right. Like if you take away 14 GMs is not 48% of responders having, and 48% of responders had Luka as the MVP pick. Giannis Antetokounmpo was second, and Embiid was third with like 14%. It's pretty big like majority, which I found interesting, and I'm just kind of the opinion that I think you and I've talked about this, you tie a Luka Doncic MVP run with the Mavericks being like a top 3 team in the West. There is no way it happens otherwise. I don't think, like, as we move away from these MVP votes at the time, like people really back into the narrative arguments, and they say, like, I just don't think we're going to get 2 years in a row of a, bottom half of a conference team getting an MVP. It kind of goes against what the traditional spirit of the award is. And I think voters and to an extent fans are kind of like really pushing for that. What do you think?
I definitely think that. I don't think I'm going to end up writing it now, but because Sam wrote something that was similar in the Vegas.
Oh, sorry about that.
No. It's completely cool. I'm good with it. My point is with that has always been, like, if you're going to wager on it, Luka is 4.5 to 1 to win MVP. Just bet the Mavs over. Luka is not winning the MVP if the Mavs don't hit their over.
Yep.
And at 4.5 to 1, it's just not worth it to risk, because the Mavs can absolutely hit their over and Luka not win MVP. They can't not hit their over and Luka win MVP. Like, I feel like Russ kind of gypped he kind of took the last. I know Jokic won last year without a great team record, but he also had one of the best analytical seasons.
It's going to be a historically discussed season.
And I think and I think one of the things that we're going to have next year that Luka's going to have to contend with too is the Giannis fatigue is going to be gone. Like, Giannis hasn't won for 2 years. I think we're going to start having one of the, like, there's the comments about why didn't LeBron win, 10 MVPs, or why didn't Jordan win 10 MVPs? I do think you'll have the Giannis fans start with the, Giannis has been the best player for this, and he only has the 2 MVPs, and he's the best defender in the league, which he is, and he's and the Bucks. I think the Bucks are going to be very good.
They're going to be unbelievable again. Like, there's just Giannis is still in his peak prime. He's going to be
and he
incredible.
Plays so hard. And he's going to average something around 30 and 13 and 6. And so, like, with that and the elite defense and what I expect to be a very good Bucks record, I just really don't see a season like, even say go crazy with the stats. Say Luka averages 31, 11, and 10, which is obviously a banana statistical season. I think you would still, if the Mavs go 42 and 40, you would still have a really big pushback from Luka for MVP with Giannis having a Giannis season and the defensive difference between the two and the record. What I predict would be a record difference between the two at that time. So I don't see any way at all that the Mavs don't hit their over and Luka wins MVP. So if you're going to wager on that, I would suggest wagering on the Mavs over.
Sure. Well, the Mavs over right now is kind of a juicy one. And like, people get really pissy when you mention this sort of thing because, well, they won 52 games last year. Well, yeah, they also won. They went 35 and 12 down the stretch, and that's insane.
The deal with the Mavs is, like, I think they're going to be, if everything goes right, the Mavs are going to be really good again. Like, they have the bones of the structure to be really good. The only thing that scares me about the Mavs is Luka has quietly become a little injury prone, in the sense that he misses like 12 to 15 games the last couple of years. And so if we have that, like, because of how much usage he has and how much he goes to the basket, there's always a chance he lands on someone and rolls an ankle. If we have Luka miss 2 weeks and Spencer Dinwiddie's knee is bulky at that time, it's real possible the Mavs go like 0-6 and for a stretch that they're out. And then after that, it gets real hard. So, I mean, it's good for them. Like, I expect good things from them. I do legitimately think they're going to be good. I didn't for a little bit, but I've talked myself into it. But the problem is, I don't think they have a backup plan if things go wrong. That is my concern.
There's none. Yeah, there's precisely no backup plan. That's correct. That is correct. Well, there's only one more thing. There's actually a lot in this, but I recommend you go check it out. My favorite thing was that clearly other teams other GMs did not know where to put Luka, in that he makes it in the top 5 for best point guard, best shooting guard, and best small forward. Like, he's in the top, and it's really funny to read that, when you're looking at how good, players, other teams think Luka is, because it's like he's all 3 of those positions. Like, that's what makes it great. It's just, I don't know. This survey was fun. I'm recommending it. It's up there on our site. Also have a lot of other posts. I discussed a few of them yesterday on, this morning on Moneyball Minute. And, we're going to have a bunch of game content I don't know. I think I'm doing the recap because nobody it's like I hired like 7 new people and nobody new signed up for any game coverage, which just tickles me to pieces. That's just going to be the way it is till the regular season, but we'll see. I don't know. You got anything else before we get on out of Dodge?
Just to go back to just finish it with, man, we get to watch Luka Doncic and the Mavs play basketball, and I cannot wait.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. All right, guys, Kirk Henderson and Matt Phillips, thank you so much for listening. Please go leave us a review on your podcast platform. That sort of thing very much helps me and helps our site, and also visit MavsMoneyball.com. We appreciate you tuning in, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.